Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're continuing our study of Picasso by exploring Cubism, one of the most influential movements in all of modern art. In my last video, we explored Picasso's Les Demoiselles D'Avignon, an influential yet problematic painting that marked a major breakthrough for Picasso. I'll link that video in the description below, and I encourage you to check that one out before watching this one. In that video, I mentioned that artists since the Renaissance had tried to create a sense of depth in their paintings to make them appear three-dimensional, and that's where I want to start today. At the time of the Renaissance, adding depth to paintings was a major jump forward. Consider, by contrast, medieval art, which looks amateurish and bizarre to our modern eyes, owing largely to the absence of perspective and proportion. As historian Svetlana Alpers notes, the Renaissance idea was that a painting ought to be like a window, which we can peer through to see the scene within. There's even a name for this, trompe l'oeil, or trick the eye. These compositions trick our eyes by appearing to show three dimensions, when in reality the canvas is a flat, two-dimensional space. Artists stuck strictly to this way of painting for centuries to follow, composing paintings so that they appeared to show three dimensions, like windows looking out into our world. But was this way of painting, looking at a scene from only one viewpoint, really true to how human beings saw things? Impressionist Paul Cézanne didn't think so. Cézanne reasoned that we had two eyes, each with a slightly different point of view. Only by combining two viewpoints on a single canvas could he truly approximate the way people saw. Cézanne explored this idea as he painted still lifes. Unlike portraits or landscapes, still lifes could be easily arranged in his studio, and he could move around the arrangements freely while they stayed in place. It was the perfect setup to explore different perspectives. Let's consider a famous example, still life with apples and peaches, painted just a year before Cézanne died. The strange tilt to the table shows us that Cézanne was working from two different viewpoints. The combination of those different perspectives is what created the unusual tilt. We tend to think of our binocular vision as adding depth, so it's a bit ironic that the effect of presenting two perspectives on a painting served to collapse pictorial space, flattening it rather than deepening it. In this painting, we see the front of the table as if we were looking straight at it, but we also see the top of the table in its entirety, as if it was tilted up for us to see its far edges. In showing both at once, the table is flattened, like a cardboard box that has been flattened to show multiple sides from one view. Picasso said that Cézanne was the father of all modern art, and it was Cézanne's experiments with perspective that inspired Picasso to deliberately flatten the image in Les Demoiselles D'Avignon. Flattening the image aligned with the two-dimensional nature of the canvas. But rather than flattening the image by using two different perspectives as Cézanne had done, Picasso greatly simplified the details of his subjects. The women in the painting are rendered solely by a few sharply angled lines, offering little more than an outline of each body. The reaction to Picasso's Les Demoiselles D'Avignon was disastrous, especially from his fellow artists. One of the artists who disliked the work was Georges Braque. Though Braque disliked Les Demoiselles itself, he understood that Picasso was attempting to build upon Cézanne's experiments, because he too was interested in Cézanne's work. Braque and Picasso began working together, collaborating so closely that Picasso compared their working relationship to a marriage. Within a year, the two artists began producing work in a radical new style, flattening images by adding visual information rather than simplifying it. If we think of Cézanne as flattening space to show two different perspectives, Picasso and Braque wanted to show as many perspectives as possible. Much like Cézanne, they often painted still lifes, which allowed them to circle around an object and find different viewpoints. Each of those viewpoints were then rendered as a small piece, a flat plane that captured just a single view of a part of the whole object. These flat planes were then locked together to create the full composition. The paintings maintained a muted color palette of earth tones, both to make the overall composition more coherent and to avoid the confusion of blending bright colors together. For Picasso and Braque, their new style was about clearly analyzing an image from multiple viewpoints, and including as much of that analysis on the canvas as possible. Henri Matisse, a famed painter himself, derisively referred to a painting by Braque as made up of small cubes. And as is often the case, what was intended as an insult actually became the name for the style: Cubism. Ironically enough, Matisse actually made this comment to Louis Vaucelles, the critic who referred to Matisse as a fauve, meaning wild beast, and thus coined the label for the Fauvist art movement. Now, as historian Will Gompertz pointed out, Cubism wasn't the best name, because unlike a cube, which creates the illusion of three-dimensional space, Picasso and Braque worked to render space in flat planes, that is, squares, not cubes. Regardless, the name Cubism stuck. Owing to the way Picasso and Braque analyzed multiple viewpoints of the same object, art historians would later term this first phase of Cubism Analytical Cubism. In only about a decade, painting had gone from one singular perspective to capturing dozens, all instantaneously. In case you can't tell, I love Cubism. It's a very complex way of thinking about images, but I find it to be really thought-provoking, stepping past one stagnant viewpoint to consider others, uniting multiple different viewpoints all at once. I think there's a real lesson there, not just for art, but for life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.